Imagine stepping into an airport, briefcase in hand, ready for a critical flight, only to be stopped, singled out, and humiliated for no reason other than your skin color. What would you do if the system turned against you? Meet Michael Carter, a lawyer who fought back and uncovered a truth that could change everything. Stay tuned for a story of justice that hits hard. A biased airport security officer labels a black man as suspicious and holds him without justification. He's stunned to learn the man is an attorney who launches a formidable lawsuit. Michael Carter checked his watch, hurrying toward the security checkpoint, aiming to pass through swiftly. His flight was less than an hour away. The case was pivotal, and every second was crucial. The line moved slowly, and he followed the routine. Belt unbuckled, shoes in the tray, laptop unpacked. "Sir, step over here, please." A sharp voice pierced the airport's buzz, freezing him in place. Michael looked up. A sturdy security officer with a grim face beckoned him aside. Extra screenings weren't unfamiliar, but this felt wrong. He took a deep breath, urging himself to remain composed. "What's the issue?" he inquired, keeping his tone steady. "Just a routine check," the officer answered brusquely. "No cause for concern." Michael's eyes narrowed, catching a trace of unease in the officer's stare. He knew that expression. It echoed from courtrooms and legal battles he'd fought. He stayed calm, though his voice held a slight edge. "What's routine about this? I'm just trying to catch my flight." The officer ignored him. Instead, he signaled a second agent, a young woman who appeared uneasy. She approached reluctantly, glancing warily at Michael. The first officer cleared his throat. "You seem tense, sir. Where are you headed?" "Boston, for business," Michael replied, his voice firm. "I'm not tense, just eager to make my flight, unless you plan to detain me." The officer's face hardened. "We're doing our job, sir. Willing to answer a few questions?" Michael offered a tight, cautious smile. "I'm fine with questions, but I'm not fine with missing my flight over a standard check." The officer crossed his arms. "We have protocols, sir. We investigate anything that seems off." Michael's patience began to slip. "Off? What's off about me boarding a plane?" The officer's gaze remained unyielding. "Just answer the questions, please." Michael exhaled deeply. "All right, go ahead." The questions started simple, but soon became probing. The officer quizzed him on his travel plans, his job, and his purpose in Boston. Michael's replies grew curt, his tolerance waning. He glanced at the clock, each tick eroding his chance to reach court on time. Finally, he faced the officer directly. "I've answered everything. Can I leave now?" The officer glanced at his colleague. "It's procedure, sir. Cooperate, and you'll be on your way." "I've cooperated," Michael snapped. "My flight's soon, unless you have a valid reason to hold me." The officer's expression darkened. "Sir, if you don't comply, we can make this tougher." "Tougher?" Michael's tone turned cold. "You're already making it tough, Agent Thompson." The officer's face stayed blank. "Well, Agent Thompson, I'm a civil rights attorney. I know my rights, and I know when I'm being targeted. Unless you're charging me, let me board my flight." Thompson's lips tightened. "Targeted? We don't target, sir. This is a security check. Your cooperation is appreciated." Michael checked his watch, time running out. Anger simmered beneath his calm exterior. "I'll cooperate when there's a reason, but I won't sit here forever because of your suspicions." Thompson hesitated briefly, his face unmoved. "Just a few more questions. Standard, as I said." "Sure," Michael replied, sarcasm dripping from his voice. He glanced at the female agent, who shifted nervously. She spoke softly, uncertain. "Agent Thompson, maybe we could—" Thompson cut her off with a glare. "We're following protocol, Brooks." Michael sighed in frustration, realizing this wouldn't end soon. He glanced at his watch. the hope of catching his flight fading with each passing moment. Michael's patience was nearly spent as he watched the clock's hands move forward. Each minute stung like an insult, a reminder he was being singled out for his skin color alone. "Agent Thompson," Michael started, striving to keep his voice even. "I've answered every question and provided all the information you asked for. I need to catch my flight. And unless you have a real reason to detain me, I want to go." Thompson raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Look, Mr. Carter, cooperate, and this will move faster." "I've been cooperating," Michael replied, his voice taut, "for almost half an hour. You're blocking my flight. This isn't a check, it's harassment." The officer's face remained stoic, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "Your attitude isn't helping, sir." "Attitude," Michael said, incredulous. "You've questioned my plans, my job, everything, without any basis but your suspicions. What's suspicious about me trying to board a plane?" Thompson crossed his arms. "We can't ignore suspicious behavior. People use all sorts of tricks to dodge security." Michael's jaw clenched, anger bubbling just below the surface. He glanced at Agent Brooks, who looked increasingly uneasy, her eyes flickering between him and Thompson, silent as if scared to challenge her superior. "Look," Michael said, turning back to Thompson. "I don't know what you think I'm hiding, but I've been completely open. Am I free to go, or are you officially detaining me?" Thompson's gaze turned icy. "If you won't cooperate, we'll have to take this further." "Take this further?" Michael echoed, his voice sharp. "Agent Thompson, you're holding me without cause and keeping me from my flight." Thompson's tone stayed cold. "We're doing our job. You're making this hard." Michael balled his fists, forcing himself to stay calm. "I want to speak to your supervisor." Thompson's mouth curled into a thin smile. "My supervisor's not available. File a complaint later if you want." "I need to make my flight," Michael said, his voice low and intense. Thompson didn't flinch. "Security comes first. Now put your hands behind your back. We're taking you for further questioning." Michael's eyes widened. "You're detaining me for what?" "Failure to comply with security procedures," Thompson replied coldly. "It's protocol, sir." Agent Brooks stepped forward hesitantly, glancing between Michael and Thompson. "Agent Thompson, is this necessary? He's been cooperative." Thompson shot her a sharp look. "Brooks, I don't need your input. Step back." Michael looked at Brooks, who seemed almost apologetic as she stepped away. He turned back to Thompson, his voice steady but firm. "This is profiling, plain and simple, and I won't let it pass." Thompson gave a tight, dismissive smile. "You can talk about that when we're done. Hands behind your back." Michael stood firm, his gaze locked on Thompson's. "You're making a mistake." Thompson's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." Two other agents approached, and before Michael could react, they seized his arms, roughly cuffing his hands behind his back. Anger surged through him, the injustice burning as he was led away from the security line, with airport patrons staring and murmuring. Michael sat in a stark, dimly lit room, his wrists still bound by cuffs as he waited. The bare walls seemed to close in, amplifying his frustration and growing rage. He heard the faint hum of activity outside, people moving freely while he was confined for no reason but his race. He glanced at the clock. An hour had passed. His flight was gone, and his mind swirled with anger and disbelief. He'd faced discrimination before, battled it in court, yet he'd hoped his status, his achievements, his humanity might earn him some respect. But here he was, treated as a threat just for existing. The door opened, and Agent Thompson entered, his face as cold as before. "Can I leave now?" Michael demanded, getting straight to the point. Thompson didn't reply immediately. He placed a thin folder on the table and folded his arms. "We're still reviewing your situation." "My situation?" Michael scoffed. "This isn't a situation, Agent Thompson. It's profiling, clear as day. You have no evidence to hold me. This is about how I look, nothing more." Thompson's expression stayed blank, though a flicker crossed his eyes. "We're investigating, Mr. Carter. We follow protocols." "Protocols?" Michael's voice dripped with disdain. "Your protocols keep people like me under suspicion. This isn't security, it's bias." Thompson sighed, as if dealing with a stubborn child. "Mr. Carter, we see suspicious behavior daily, from all kinds of people. We're just doing our job." "Suspicious behavior?" Michael leaned forward, his tone sharp. "I was passing through security. My only behavior was being a black man in a suit. I bet you wouldn't question me if I looked like you." Thompson's jaw tightened, but his voice remained even. "Your accusations won't help, Mr. Carter. Cooperation would serve you better." Michael gave a bitter chuckle. "Cooperation? I've cooperated since you pulled me aside, and here I am, missing my flight, held for no reason but your assumptions." Thompson stayed silent, his face unchanged. "Let me ask you something," Michael continued, his voice calm but cutting. "If I were white, if I looked normal to you, would I be cuffed here? Or would I be on my way to Boston?" Thompson didn't answer, but a slight flush of irritation showed. "That's what I thought," Michael said quietly, his words sharp as a blade. Just then, the door opened, and Agent Brooks stepped in, her eyes darting nervously between Michael and Thompson. She seemed reluctant to be there. "Agent Brooks," Michael said, locking eyes with her. "You saw what happened. You know this was more than a security check." Brooks swallowed, visibly torn. "Mr. Carter, I don't make those calls." Thompson cut in, his voice harsh. "Brooks, you're dismissed. I've got this handled." Brooks paused, her gaze lingering on Michael before she nodded and left. As the door shut, Michael leaned back, staring at Thompson. "You can't hold me forever. Eventually you'll have to let me go, and when you do, I'll make sure everyone knows what happened." Thompson smirked thinly. "File your complaints later, Mr. Carter, but while you're here, we'll investigate as we see fit." Michael's fists clenched, fury rising, but he forced himself to breathe, recalling his purpose and strength. They might see him as just another black man to dismiss, but they'd misjudged him. This was far from over. He spoke, his voice low but resolute. "You think you're in charge, Agent Thompson, but when I leave, this will follow you. I'm not the one in the wrong. You are, and I'll ensure everyone knows it." Thompson's face tightened, but he said nothing, watching as Michael held his gaze, unwavering. Michael shifted in the hard metal chair, his wrists aching from the cuffs after hours in the cold, windowless room. Footsteps echoed outside, each time raising hopes of release. But each time, nothing. His flight was long gone, the one he'd planned carefully to defend his client in court. The loss burned in his chest, alongside the outrage of being treated like a criminal for simply walking through security. Finally, the door opened, and Agent Thompson stepped in, his smug expression unchanged. "Well, Mr. Carter," he said, leaning against the wall with crossed arms. "We're ready to let you go." Michael stared at him, his face calm, but his eyes blazing. Finally, hours here. No reason, no charges. Was this a game to you? Thompson chuckled, his smile barely hiding a sneer. "Don't get so worked up, Mr. Carter. You're not the first to cry profiling or discrimination when things don't go your way." "Don't go my way," Michael repeated, stunned. "You held me because of my appearance, nothing else." Thompson smirked. "Funny how folks like you always play the victim card." Michael's fists tightened, his voice icy. "Folks like me?" "Yeah," Thompson said, eyes narrowing. "Always blaming racism, like the world's against you. Maybe if you showed some respect, we wouldn't be here." Michael took a slow breath, fighting to stay composed. "Respect? I answered every question you asked. What more do you want?" Thompson laughed dismissively. Respect isn't mouthing off with that attitude, acting like you deserve special treatment. Most people don't get so high and mighty. Special treatment, Michael echoed, the words bitter. All I wanted was to catch my flight. I have a job, responsibilities, like anyone else. Sure you do, Thompson said, his tone condescending. Off to some fancy Boston law office, thinking you're a big shot. Newsflash, Mr. Carter, nobody cares, especially here. Michael's jaw tightened, each word stoking his anger. You're saying I deserve this because I'm black? Thompson shrugged, his eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. I didn't say that. But if that's your take, maybe there's a reason. Michael's breath slowed, his body tense. So, this was about profiling me because I don't fit your idea of who belongs in first class or on a plane. Thompson shook his head, laughing mockingly. You jump to conclusions, but it's people like you who make things harder for everyone. People like me? Michael shot back, his voice low and intense. Who stand up for their rights? Who won't back down when treated unfairly? Rights? Thompson scoffed. You don't get special rights just because you throw a fit. This isn't a fit, Michael said, his voice steady as steel. This is me demanding the respect and fairness every person deserves. But you wouldn't get that, would you? Thompson leaned closer, his smile twisted. Maybe it's your problem, acting untouchable, strolling through security like you own it. Michael stared back, unflinching. I know my rights, and this is illegal detention. You have nothing on me, Thompson, just your own bias. Thompson's face darkened, his smugness slipping. Bias? You think that word will save you, but no one cares about your speeches. You're just another face in the system. Michael's anger turned cold, his voice low. If I'm just another face, why do you seem so threatened? Thompson's eyes flashed with anger before he forced a smile. Threatened? Don't kid yourself. You're just another complainer, making excuses. Maybe if you followed the rules, you wouldn't be here. Michael leaned forward, his tone firm. No, Agent Thompson. It's people like you who abuse power, thinking a badge lets you do anything. But this time, you're wrong, and I'm not letting this go. Thompson laughed, mocking. Think anyone will care? File your complaint. It won't get far. Oh, I will, Michael said coolly. And it won't be small, trust me. Thompson's face tightened, but he forced a cold smile. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you, Mr. Carter. People like you don't get far. You're just asking for trouble. Michael gave a bitter smile. And people like you think they're untouchable. But this time, you'll face consequences. With a final sneer, Thompson unlocked the cuffs and stepped back, gesturing to the door. Get out, and don't let the door hit you. Michael stood, rubbing his wrists, but he didn't hurry. He held Thompson's gaze, the silence heavy with meaning. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door, looking back. You'll remember this day, Agent Thompson, because I won't forget it. Thompson's sneer faded slightly as Michael walked out, his steps steady, each one a silent vow that this wasn't over. Michael left the airport, a storm of emotions raging within. Anger, frustration, and a fierce resolve. He pulled out his phone, recording a voice memo as he walked, capturing every detail while it was fresh. He recounted the hours of detention, Thompson's smug grin, and every prejudiced comment the agent had made. This wouldn't be buried. The next morning, Michael strode into his law firm, files in hand, and headed to Emma Sullivan's office. She looked up, her eyes widening at his determined expression. Michael, I saw your missed call last night. I was worried, Emma said, her tone mixing concern and restrained anger. They held me at the airport, Michael said, his voice hard. Hours of questioning, invasive probes, and nothing but a missed court date, all because I looked suspicious to them. Emma's face tightened, anger flashing in her eyes. They detained you for that, and made you miss your client's hearing. They had no basis, just their assumptions, and that agent's veiled bias. Michael tossed a file onto her desk. I want to file a lawsuit. They're not getting away with this. Emma opened the file, scanning the documents he'd prepared. Good. This needs more than complaints. We'll need a strong case to make it stick. Michael nodded. I'm ready to take them on. There's a junior agent, Brooks, who was there. She seemed uneasy with Thompson's actions. I think she'd testify if we asked. Emma's eyes sparked with focus. Then we'll contact her. If we get her testimony and maybe airport security footage, we could build a case that grabs public attention. I want this to be bigger than a lawsuit, Michael said, his voice resolute. I want it to be a statement, showing they can't keep doing this. Emma nodded, her gaze supportive. Then we'll make it airtight. They'll fight hard, claiming it was all by the book. But with evidence, we'll show their book profiles people. Michael clenched his jaw, Thompson's sneer vivid in his mind. They think they can silence people, treat us however they want. But they chose the wrong target this time. Emma flipped through the file, strategizing. This is bigger than your case, Michael. It could be a turning point. If we expose them, others might step forward, and airport security will face scrutiny beyond what they did to you. She picked up her phone, dialing to start the filing process. We'll submit the complaint and reach out to Brooks. Hopefully, she'll go on record. Later that day, Michael and Emma entered the courthouse to file the lawsuit. As the papers were submitted, they knew there was no turning back. This was a fight Michael was ready to wage. Outside, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing as they spotted him. Word of the lawsuit had spread, and the press pounced. Mr. Carter, why are you filing this lawsuit? Is this about racial profiling? What do you hope to achieve? Michael raised a hand, calming the questions. This isn't just about me. It's about holding institutions accountable, ensuring they can't profile or mistreat people based on race. No one should endure what I did, and it's time to stand against these practices. A reporter's voice rose above the crowd. Do you think this case could spark broader reform? Michael met her gaze, his tone firm. That's my goal. This isn't about one incident. It's about change, so no one feels targeted for existing. This fight is for everyone. After a few more questions, Michael and Emma left, a renewed purpose driving them. Back at the office, they reviewed evidence, organized witness statements, and prepared subpoenas for terminal footage. Every detail was examined. Emma paused, looking up from her notes. They'll try to paint you as the problem, Michael, saying you caused trouble. Michael gave a tight smile, bitterness in his tone. Let them try. I have my testimony, Brooks if she agrees, and the truth. They can spin it, but facts don't bend. Emma nodded, her expression firm. Good, because we'll need all our strength. This isn't just about winning, it's about setting a precedent. Michael's gaze was steady, his voice resolute. Then let's be ready. They have their rules, but we have justice. I'm not stopping. Not now. Not ever. They spent the evening building their case, each moment bringing them closer to the battle ahead. For Michael, this was more than personal. It was a stand against a system that wronged countless others, and he was determined to see it through. The lawsuit filing hit the news fast, sparking media buzz and public debate. Outlets covered Michael's story, detailing his detention and profiling accusations. Social media overflowed with reactions, some sharing similar experiences, others skeptical. Michael scrolled through comments at his desk. Some praised his bravery, but others dripped with hostility. Another race card player, one read, "Probably acted shady and now blames everyone," another said. He shook his head, frustration rising. No matter how clear his story or strong his evidence, some would dismiss him, accusing him of overreacting or seeking attention. But he knew his truth and wouldn't waver. Emma entered, her expression encouraging yet cautious. The media's intense, Michael. We expected pushback, but this is big. He looked up, his face calm but determined. I'm not shocked. They want people like me to stay silent, scared to speak out, but that's not me. Emma sat across from him. Airport security issued a statement denying profiling, calling it a routine check and you uncooperative, painting you as a threat. Michael gave a bitter laugh. A threat? Convenient. Their routine was hours of invasive questions, racist remarks, and detention without cause. They're shaping the narrative. They are, Emma said, and it's swaying some people. But we have facts. We need to push with evidence and a clear message. Michael's phone rang, an unknown number. He answered. This is Michael Carter. Mr. Carter, it's Agent Brooks, came a nervous but firm voice. I heard about the lawsuit, and I'm ready to talk. Michael's heart lifted. Thank you, Agent Brooks. This isn't easy, but your testimony could be key. Brooks paused, her voice shaky. I didn't agree with Thompson's actions. I saw how wrong it was, but I was scared to speak up, afraid of losing my job. Michael softened his tone. I understand. It's brave to call. We'll protect you as much as we can, and your voice matters. Brooks hesitated. I'll make a statement about what I saw. If no one speaks out, this will keep happening. Thank you, Michael said, relief in his voice. We'll arrange a meeting with our legal team to document everything. As he hung up, Emma smiled. That's huge. Brooks's testimony could solidify our case, especially with their denials. Michael nodded, hope growing. She's taking a risk, but her statement could tip the scales. The next few days were hectic as news of Brooks' involvement spread. Media coverage surged, with reporters seeking her story, some praising her courage, others calling her a traitor. Airport security doubled down, issuing statements to discredit Michael, portraying him as a resistant passenger who escalated things. His inbox filled with emails, some supportive from strangers with similar experiences, others accusing him of chasing fame or money. One email stood out. You're ruining airport security's reputation. It read, people like you make everything about race. Security's just doing their job. Stop attacking hardworking agents. Michael felt a surge of anger, but reminded himself why he was fighting. The dismissal, the denial. It was part of a bigger issue. If he gave up, he'd validate those attitudes. Emma entered, her face serious. We should consider a press conference, Michael. If we don't speak out, their story will dominate. He nodded, seeing the need to control the narrative. You're right. Let's set one up this week. We'll present the evidence, Brooks' testimony, and make our case clear. Days later, they faced a crowd of cameras and reporters. Michael stood at the podium, Emma beside him. He took a breath and spoke. Thank you for being here. I filed this lawsuit not for personal gain, but because no one should face unfair treatment based on looks. My experience isn't unique. It's part of a widespread problem. He paused, reporters scribbling, cameras clicking. I was held without cause, interrogated, and humiliated for hours, seen as suspicious because of my race. We can't ignore this pattern. Emma stepped forward. Agent Brooks, present during the detention, has agreed to testify. Her account backs Mr. Carter's experience. We're not here to ruin reputations. We're here for accountability and reform in airport security. Reporters shouted questions, some probing, others skeptical. Mr. Carter, how do you answer claims you were uncooperative? Michael faced the reporter, his voice firm. I cooperated fully, but there's a line between compliance and submission. I answered every question, yet they held me without reason. That's not security, it's profiling. Another asked, can this case change airport security policies? That's my hope, Michael replied. This isn't just about me. It's about reform, so everyone can travel without fear of bias. The press conference ended with applause and murmurs. As Michael and Emma left, he felt the moment's weight. He'd opened himself to scrutiny, risking his reputation, but it was worth it. The backlash would persist, but he was ready. This was about ensuring no one else faced such indignity, and he wouldn't stop until justice was served. The trial day arrived, the courtroom buzzing with tension. Michael's lawsuit against airport security had drawn major attention, the stakes immense. He sat at the plaintiff's table with Emma, who'd worked tirelessly to build a strong case. Across from them, airport security's legal team sat with Agent Thompson, still smug and defiant. The case wasn't just about proving profiling, it was about holding security accountable for unlawful detention, power abuse, and discrimination. Michael had charged airport security and Thompson with racial profiling, unlawful detention, emotional distress, and abuse of power. The judge entered, silencing the room as the trial began. The defense attorney opened with a polished statement, claiming Michael's detention was a standard safety measure. Agent Thompson followed protocol, the attorney said, glancing at the jury. Mr. Carter's behavior warranted extra scrutiny. Michael's jaw tightened, but he stayed composed, awaiting his turn. When he spoke, he addressed the jury with conviction. "This isn't about security," he said firmly. "It's about being targeted and humiliated for my appearance. They call it routine, but there was nothing routine about it." He recounted the detention, detailing how Thompson escalated with invasive, degrading questions and held him without cause. "This wasn't about safety," he said. "It was about a bias that saw me as a threat because of my skin color." Jurors shifted, his words resonating. Emma called Agent Brooks to the stand. Brooks looked nervous, but resolute, nodding at Michael. Emma approached respectfully. "Agent Brooks, you witnessed Mr. Carter's detention. Were Agent Thompson's actions justified?" Brooks shook her head. "No, it was excessive from the start. Mr. Carter wasn't suspicious, he just wanted his flight. But Thompson kept pushing, looking for a reason to hold him." The defense attorney jumped in, trying to undermine her. "Agent Brooks, couldn't Mr. Carter have seemed nervous or defensive? You're trained to spot risks." Brooks's voice steadied. "Yes, but Mr. Carter wasn't hiding anything. He was frustrated but calm. Thompson escalated it." The attorney pressed. "Are you saying Thompson's actions were biased?" Brooks took a breath. "Yes, I believe he targeted Mr. Carter because of his appearance." The courtroom hummed, and Michael felt hope surge. Brooks' courage bolstered his case. When Thompson took the stand, his smugness persisted. He minimized his actions, claiming they were standard, and that Michael's attitude justified scrutiny. "Mr. Carter was uncooperative," Thompson said, glaring at Michael. "He questioned my authority, dodged answers. That's a red flag in my experience." Emma leaned forward, her tone sharp. "So, Agent Thompson, you see someone asserting their rights as a threat?" Thompson hesitated. "It's unusual. Most people comply without issue." Emma's gaze sharpened. "So, because Mr. Carter defended his rights, you marked him as suspicious and escalated?" Thompson's confidence wavered. "I did what was needed for security." Emma pressed on. "Needed for security, or to control someone who didn't fit your expectations?" Thompson shifted, his assurance cracking. "I followed procedure." The trial's evidence built a strong case against airport security. Footage showed Michael calm and compliant, debunking Thompson's claims. Brooks's testimony painted a picture of bias-driven detention. As the trial progressed, the defense weakened. Michael's charges, profiling, unlawful detention, emotional distress, and power abuse, highlighted systemic issues. In his closing statement, Michael spoke with resolve. "This isn't just my fight," he told the jury. "It's about accountability, ensuring no one endures what I did. I was detained, humiliated, and dehumanized for my appearance. They call it a security measure, but it was profiling, plain and simple." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I ask you to hold them accountable, to show racial profiling has no place in our society. This case is about change, protecting everyone who passes through an airport." The judge sent the jury to deliberate. Michael sat, heart racing, awaiting their decision. Hours later, the jury returned, faces solemn. The foreperson spoke. "We find for the plaintiff, Michael Carter, ruling that airport security's actions were racial profiling, unlawful detention, emotional distress, and abuse of power. We recommend policy reforms to prevent future discrimination." Relief flooded Michael. Emma squeezed his shoulder, her face proud. They'd won, not just for him, but for all wronged by such treatment. The judge addressed the defense sternly. "This case exposes serious flaws in your protocols. I urge airport security to enact reforms to prevent profiling and ensure fair treatment." Outside, supporters cheered as Michael and Emma faced the media. Reporters pressed forward. "Today's verdict is a win for justice," Michael said, his voice strong. "This wasn't just about me. It was about holding institutions accountable, standing against profiling. I hope this warns others we won't tolerate injustice." The crowd roared, and Michael felt hope rise. The trial was a step toward change, a reminder that power isn't above accountability. Though more work lay ahead, Michael was ready to keep fighting. Days after the verdict, Michael sat in his office, sorting files, when his phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at the screen, eyes widening at the headline, "Airport Security Fires Agent Thompson After Profiling Verdict in Carter Case." The news struck with satisfaction and a sense of closure. He hadn't expected such swift action, knowing institutions often avoid admitting fault or firing staff. But there it was, in bold letters. Thompson was gone. Michael leaned back, the news sinking in. He recalled the trial, Thompson's smug posture across the courtroom, exuding confidence. On the stand, Thompson had dismissed Michael's experience, acting as if he'd just done his job. Despite mounting evidence, he'd seemed sure he'd escape unscathed. Yet now he was out. Michael wondered how Thompson was coping, losing his job, exposed publicly for bias. Would it prompt reflection, or would he carry his prejudice elsewhere? Michael doubted Thompson would change easily. But the firing wasn't about Thompson alone. It was about everyone treated like Michael, about saying, enough is enough. This was bigger than one man's fate. It was about deterring others from letting bias guide their actions. Relief washed over him, knowing his struggle had made a difference. If airport security acted like this, it might warn others who wielded power carelessly. A knock broke his thoughts. Emma entered with a coffee mug, her expression warm as she saw the headline. "Looks like the system worked, with a nudge," she said, handing him the coffee. Michael nodded, a small smile forming. "I didn't think they'd fire him. I figured they'd issue a statement and hush it up." "This is what happens when you fight and hold people accountable," Emma said, her voice full of admiration. "You didn't just win a case, Michael. You showed they can't hide behind procedures when those procedures are biased." He looked down, her words resonating. "I didn't sue to get him fired. I just couldn't let it go unchallenged. People like him think they're untouchable, and now they know they're not." Emma nodded. "You've done something huge, beyond one person. Thompson may not change, but others will think twice, knowing someone's watching." Michael leaned back, the burden lifting. "I never wanted this fight, but I'm glad I stood my ground." "You did this for everyone," Emma said softly. "For all who felt small before people like Thompson. You gave them a voice." He nodded, emotion swelling. His case had grown beyond personal justice. It was a movement, a message. Despite the toll, he'd do it again. Michael glanced at the headline once more. For the first time since that airport day, he felt true peace. The system wasn't perfect, but today it had worked, and he'd helped make it happen.